we've been working around the theme of non-dual sexuality and gender. And of course, the word non-dual is connected with unity and oneness and a kind of spirituality which is outside of the formalities of religion, the often power-based structures of religion. For some people, it's, Hinduism, Advaita, but not when we use it. It literally means not two, oneness. And not one religion, but all. The traditions, mystical traditions more, which step outside of the power agenda which is in many religions, meaning the social agenda. So within that religious history that we share, regardless of what religion we're coming from, what comes very, very early is an interference with the subject of gender and sexuality. And a splitting of the men from the women, a power play that the men's voice is the voice often, but sometimes it's the other way around. All of this driven by a fear of sexuality. Because sexuality somewhere along the line became associated with destruction, with unholiness. Because we're in a process of evolution of the mind, and the mind can't control the sexuality. So often when sexuality comes forward, which is in a way which is different from what the mind thinks is right or good, there is a fragmenting happening within the psyche. And where there is a splitting happening within the psyche, there is a conflict. And where there is a conflict, there's suffering. And where this inner conflict of suffering is not owned, it tends to be active.
Sorry to say something, but we can't hear it online.
The internet connection is very bad.
I see.
Yeah, but we're coming in through your.
Usually you have 3 greens.
Yeah, now that it
Yeah, but we're broadcasting through this one.
Yeah.
We can't follow your talk.
You can't hear anything at all?
Bits, but so we can't follow it.
Can you look at your dials? Because this is your department. This is you, not me.
Yeah, it is. It's, is somebody on internet with his telephone right now? Because
it could be we need to relaunch.
If you are on the ISSP, otherwise we relaunch.
Als je op een vliegtuig staat, dan ben je...
No, vliegtuigstand is goed. I've got. No, it's a closed ISSP network, but if too many people, and especially with Apple's are on, Apple is blocking all the other. Now Apple has a little thing in it that blocks all the other internet connections.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I like Apple.
Sorry? No, the microphone is okay. It freezes now and then. But now it seems to be okay. Is it okay? Yeah.
Yeah, on this moment, yes.
Okay, so let's go on and see what's happening.
So where there is a conflict inside of ourselves, this is not news to us. Where there's a conflict inside between pelvic and moral in the mind, for example, which is not, and the suffering is not contained, then there is a projection outwardly. The conflict materializes outwardly, and then we go and, kill all the boys in the neighboring village, or or we burn witches. So, and then we say, well, why does this happen? There's terrible things, this terrible suffering, this murder, death, destruction, this spreading of suffering. It's because of the sexuality. And then it loops back again. So let's try and control the sexuality even more. And this spills into gender, where the active principle says, okay, sexuality is fine as long as there's no women around. So it's because of women. So women should dress differently. Women shouldn't sing in public. They shouldn't dance and be seen like that. They should stay inside the house, preferably inside the kitchen. They shouldn't be after hours alone with a man. And then the men will be whole. And the women also.
Stimulate, like getting confused with the signals, the natural sensuality of kids.
It absolutely moves again also into children. How we talk to our children about their bodies and about their sexuality, but already with their bodies, with their genitals. The shame around the nakedness of a 3-year-old. 2-year-old, they can still get away with it on a beach in France, but 3 years old, 4 years old, you begin to get that strange energy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sexual trauma in people just from being shamed as very young children for touching their genitals. They can explore their ear, but they're not allowed to explore what's going on here. And that begins very young, practically in babyhood. And that's not even going to the transmission, which goes from generation to generation of like sexual shame. You've changing your child's nappy. And you're a man, and it's a boy. You need to clean him. So at least my ex-husband refused to do that because he said he would make his son into a homosexual. That's one excuse.
He became a homosexual.
he was
He didn't do it because he didn't do it.
But you can feel the little
Crazy.
sister comes to look at little baby brother, and she's curious because it's denied and it's different from her, and so she touches, and somebody comes in it, and the immediate transference of adult sexual hang-up, sexual association with shame and horror to the babies. And they're babies. Later on, if you move into the children area, it's the most natural thing to discover the pleasure which is there. And that can, because there's such a charge around it of shame and secrecy and forbiddenness among the adults that also haven't got patience or time for the children. Often you get sexual play with children. Let's play doctors and nurses. Let's play mummies and daddies. And it's like this forbidden sexuality, but very, very, very pure as well. Until it gets caught. Adult enters room. And then there can be such a drama, such a shaming, such a crisis, such a labeling, such a demonizing. And so as very little children, we're learning that sexuality is practically evil.
I was evil.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we do that as children. We say, I am the evil, because then at least we can control it. If you say, I am evil, I'm the bad one, then at least we can keep it in. we can control it. If it's there's evil everywhere among all the adults and everything, and there is this horror circulating around that happens at nights behind closed doors, that my parents are actually lying to me, because on the one hand they say this is bad, naughty, not okay, not allowed. On the other hand, they've got photographs of mummy posing in all positions in their private bathroom. I describe the experience of a client. He's taking his friend of a tour of the house. Catholic family. It's completely confusing. This is somebody who's not allowed to have his door closed as a teenager, because what he might be getting up to. Then sees these pornographic pictures of his mother. Also. But why don't you want to see it? It's just the same kind of sexual shame given back again to the parents. That's why it's very difficult for us as little children to see intimacy between our parents. Dodo is literally like, hey! She sees him again.
With a lot of love.
She plays it out. Yeah. So,
why is it?
Because the whole field of sexuality is labeled epigenetically and culturally and educationally and reflexively as being impure, not okay, deceitful, destructive, evil, something that should be controlled, sneaky secret.
So control is also in the clothes.
The control goes all the way, all the different ways we try to control it, externally. Which, of course, when we talked about sexual trauma later, that can lead to victim blaming and body shaming.
But it's also kind of automatic process, at least in lifetime, because when you get older, people almost 14 now, it doesn't want to see me naked anymore, we were never, they never about this.
Yes,
no?
yeah.
But maybe it's definitely genetically, cultural trend.
It's absolutely a natural reaction.
Yeah.
So the natural reaction, but doesn't mean it's the only reaction.
No.
Doesn't mean it couldn't be different. I was naked in the bedroom, and my eldest son, who's 30, came in. And I go, ah! And he goes, whoa! It's so funny. He got jumped. It was so tribal. But one thing we can say about sexuality, because that's not sexuality, that's shock. Yes, yeah, exactly.
This future.
When my mother doesn't live anymore, but when she needed care, I showered her once a week, and always, now, I felt a disgust around sexuality, but for me it was so healing to every week shower her and love and see the body and
exactly.
all the shame, everything.
Yes.
So that was very, very, it touches me. Yeah, I'm so happy that I did it.
Yes, yeah.
Because I could, well, it was not the first week that I showered her. I had some difficult layers in myself.
Yes, yeah.
But I enjoyed the beauty of it.
Yeah. So you get a sense of how much it reflects this edge, especially in connection to the mother's body. There is a whole practice of just breathing and relaxing and recalling details of the mother's body. it can be so shocking and activating in a way, because so quickly we blank off the physical intimacy with the mother. And this is directly, purely reflecting how we blank off our physical intimacy between the feeling and the physicality of ourselves.
I have memories from breastfeeding. It's
Yeah.
like I was breastfed, even
Yeah,
though
yeah,
the campus was not fully developed.
Yes,
officially, but
yeah.
I have a very clear memory of that.
Yeah. But what there is available to us is a whole inch by inch, the detail of our mother's ear, the shape of her shoulder, the curve of her back, the texture of her skin, the smell of her armpits. You know, we have the shape of her ankles, how her knees were. So partly why it would be so healing is because
And
there's an
also this
incredible
part, the
intimacy,
vagina,
totally,
because it was
including the
also
smell and
mine.
everything.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you're little, you go straight between the legs of the mother. It's your height.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and we're very, very unfiltered. We're not censoring, closing down the senses as children, and we're not judging. You know, in a way, we are animals. We are human animals, and animals find their way through scent towards their mother. And that's just in the body. And the body is a bridge to the subtle energy. It's one of the first ways back home. If we're thrown out of ourselves, split outside of ourselves, one of the first way backs is through the body. So when we shut down on the physical reality or physical form or the awareness of the physicality of the mother, we're also partly shutting down on her love, or on this whole area of intimacy. And there's a kind of ichsa about it, a kind of kvetch, shame, or disgust that goes with that, a kind of cringe. And there is the naturalness of, you know, not wanting to sleep in your mother's bed anymore and growing up and preferring to be with your wife. This is all happening by itself naturally, but it gets confused. So there becomes an intimacy difficulty. In general, with the mother and with every other. It's like something is turning to jelly or clay. And of course, where there is a congealing, like, of, let's say the energy is alive and it becomes denser. There's a loss of the feeling of intimacy, a loss of the sense of connection. That's okay. Are you okay? Yeah. No. You need to drink some water or something, or you need me to shut up? I'm joking. So where the need fisherman's friend?
Need some broth.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because it's itching like hell. It's itching.
Nee, ja, nou, het was duidelijk. Ik kon het wagen. Nee. Alsjeblieft niet, Bert.
So where the intimacy is shutting down and becoming insensitive and not connected. What's also happening is there is a loneliness building. The suffering of disconnect. Sense of isolation. So often when you are working with someone who's craving more intimacy, it's important to look where they're actually avoiding intimacy, where there's a fear of intimacy, where loneliness is maybe the preferred option. And what will come forward there is all kinds of conditions on intimacy. And this will reflect backwards in a difficulty in being intimate with the loneliness, or intimate with the sense of isolation. Difficult to be intimate with the feeling of disconnect. Of course, all of this has sexuality and relationship in the background, doesn't it? Belonging. And partly also because it's loneliness and isolation and separation is so socially shaped. To both genders, to men and to women, so disowned. It becomes even more difficult to let ourselves feel what actually this suffering is. And this is the suffering we're choosing for. Because there's a block in the intimacy which is just bleh, so disgusting in its feeling. And because we don't want ourselves to feel this suffering of loneliness or isolation, and it can be really in the here and now, like alone in the whole universe, universal absence. What can happen is that we catapult outside of ourselves to try and grasp something out there to take away the pain. Because it's because there is not sex, or it's because there is not a person, an intimate person. So the other one, the other gender, or the experience that we have, needs to take away this feeling, also of isolation, and also the kind of contraction around intimacy. That's the job. That's the purpose. So now we're going into maybe a beginning of a relationship. And we're already using the relationship. We have an agenda within the relationship, or a demand within the relationship, a condition that I must never feel this. That's your job, to take away this. Or we make love. We move into sexuality. And the sexuality is already conditioned. I have to have this sexual experience so that I don't have this. And of course, it doesn't tend to go that well because it's not that unconditional or loving or connected or responsive if there's another person. So what then can happen is that because we're resourceful creatures, we turn to the porn industry. A lot of men turn to the porn industry, especially because women, they just don't obey. They talk back. They've got their own problems with isolation. They keep going into relationships with women and they open up, and then the woman opens up in her isolation and she's broadcasting isolation towards him. Then it's the very isolation he wants to avoid. And in no time, the couple has collapsed into this horror of the other one is the cause of this universal abandonment, this isolation, this loneliness. So in some ways, it's easier to get a grip on this whole thing to try and take the edge off, at least with pornography, because pornography is static, up, down, finish, gone. The problem contained. Sexuality controlled. Isolation controlled. The problem of existence controlled. The problem of suffering managed. Of course, this is unsustainable. Because then it feeds back again into relationship, that the relationship is now a little bit pornographic. It's doing something to the sexuality. For men and women. It's more dissociated.
I missed something in the beginning. Why? It starts.
Why does it start?
Because your mother.
This whole area where we are not yet in our state of evolution, at home with being whole in our naturalness, in what we feel in the here and now. So we split.
And that is when you are a baby with your mother.
If not when you're a baby, then when you go to school. If not when you go to school, in your first relationship. If not then with your first mother-in-law or your first doctor encounter. You know, I had a client, for example, who's like Jewish Orthodox family, no sexuality, no sexuality, no sexuality. Okay, now we go to the doctor. She goes to the doctor, this kind of old man. And it's like, take off all your clothes. And he's like looking like this, and the girl is absolutely confused. Like suddenly my genitals are all exposed to a complete stranger, an old man in this sterile environment, and my nakedness is demanded. So she started to have panic attacks every time she needed to go to the doctor. Because it was just too too spooky. So fearful, because she'd already been trained that we don't do that. And she didn't make the difference, and she's feeling unwell. And so the mother's response to the panic attacks of the girl and going to the doctor would be to say, we're going to get ice cream. To trick her.
She lied.
Yeah. Then suddenly she finds herself at the doctor. So you can imagine the psychological, no, not afterwards. No. We're not going to the doctor. If she'd known she was going to the doctor, she wouldn't get in the car for 20 million ice creams. She would hide the fact that they were going to the doctor until they would arrive there. So this is like, it's no longer about sexuality, but it's the whole sense of trust in reality is getting ruptured. Pure abuse. All from a loving Jewish mother that wants to take medical care of her child and to keep her safe within a gender role. And of course, the doctors are always male. This is in Brooklyn, but
And it's a doctor.
it's the doctor.
Yeah.
So there's no sexuality there.
Yeah, no sexuality. No.
And we all know that from our visits to the gynecologists, right?
Yeah.
It's not anything sexual about it. It's tricky. So would we prefer a gynecologist who is absolutely sexually disconnected with no sexual feelings at all, or a gynecologist that's absolutely aware of his sexuality and yours, and to such an extent that he's not violating anything because he's in connection? Gynecologist.
Male, and I was lying out there thinking, invited some other colleagues to come,
To have a look.
Yeah, I wanted to have, what's this?
Yeah.
I was not a very strange person or something. No?
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
nice.
Oh, yeah. It was like, come and see. And afterwards, years later, that was very strange.
Yes.
No, it's never that much. No, not very not okay. I didn't realize it at the moment.
No,
that's all.
It happened to me as well, and I decided not to go back. Terrible.
Yeah, all the old, it's different now. For the old generation of the past. Well,
Oh, when you give birth, they can bring whole student teams around to have a look.
yeah, well,
Look at the stitch work and stuff.
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Oh,
I can't say no.
At least not in Israel. No, it's, you are just public property.
yeah.
Anyway, of course we can. It's always worthwhile to have a sense of how it could be, because we close down partly and just numb ourselves because this is how the world is, and then we're actually numbing down part of our, not just our physical aliveness and sensitivity, but also our integrity. Like you say, it's not okay, not okay. Like that we're allowed to say that, we have to first feel it's not okay. So for many, they don't feel it's not okay. Just go through it. And maybe not even. Maybe there's just a shutdown. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot of dissonance in how it all plays out. And of course, we can't fix this from the level of it. It's to stop this behavior or to go to a female gynecologist and not a male one. In the end, it's not really changing anything at the depth. No. Because at the depth, there is this belief that we are not safe in our sexuality. Because sexuality is evil. And if the evil's not in here, in our sexuality, the evil's out here in the gynecologist or in the other one. So we're not safe, or we are dangerous. This very strong association.
There is the difference in culture, like, for example, when I was in Africa, I don't know that too, but more natural, like feeling food and sex that you're part of it. And I was just wondering, I don't know if you've experienced it, there's a difference in cultures and how they experience sexuality in the form around it.
Yeah. Totally. Difference between cultures, difference between social classes, difference between generations, difference between individuals. It's immensely differentiated. But the same core issue is there, which is connected with the evolution of the mind and the split between the mind and the body and the heart. You know, we came so far in the Western world in individuation and finding our own authority and realizing that, that God just isn't out there. God is in here as well. Mm-hmm. And that's part of individuation, realizing the inner light. And this is immensely important as well. But it has come at the cost of our naturalness. This separate self, this feeling of having to have a boundary, this newfound authority. We see it happening to all of us. We find our authority and suddenly we are like protesting against everybody else at first. It takes a while to come to a position where everybody has their authority. So we are one life form evolving through this, and it's not either good or bad. But we are at the cutting edge of pioneering it, evolving. We're at the front line partly. By definition, every generation of humanity is at the front line of evolution. It's not that we're special as the Dutch Israelis, English hybrids. But what's there is this association of sexuality with unsafety and danger, with the very bestest, goodest, ultimate experience, and the very, very, very worstest, hellish experience, heaven and hell. And what's happening partly here is either side of the coin that you look at it is what's playing out is a knowing of the power of sexuality. And that's partly what Bart talked about yesterday. This incredible difficulty we have with power. And our main difficulty with power is that we can't control it. It doesn't behave, that it's bigger than us. So that almost sounds like a spiritual conflict, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. When do we have an issue with God? When he doesn't behave. When horrific things happen to us, when we suffer. when he doesn't fit our beliefs. And we decide he doesn't exist, and we rage at him to tell him he doesn't exist. Which means that very close by power is helplessness. That we're not able to dictate power. We're not able to control it. We're not able to even really get its intelligence. Forgive it. There's a helplessness right there, in and around and within power. And this is all showing up very, very strongly in the whole dimensions, universe of creative universe of sexuality. The power that created the universe. Or the helplessness which allowed the universe.
Is it strange that I see sexuality as it stands as less dangerous and more acceptable and accessible and to work with than when it's a form?
No, I think it's because something clops. Because that's what a form is: static, a form is rigid, a form is limited, a form is controlling. And by the time we say this is a form, it's already not what it is. You know, I can say these flowers are these form, and we could make exact measurements of the colors and everything of the flowers. By the time we're done, the flowers have already become something else. There is no such thing as a form. So that's unsafe. It's always what we say about a form is always an after effect. We go to the doctor, we have our blood tests done. You know, a week later, we get the results. And we're told this is what our blood is, but it's on that morning after that coffee, with that hangover, before we ate all that spaghetti. You know, we're much more alive than that. Yeah, exactly. Our mood. Yes, exactly. So it's a snapshot in time of a particular set of conditions. That's a form. And with our mind, we want to say, dictate that this is the form, and this is exactly how we move with sexuality. So it's very unsafe because it makes us always running to try and fit into the picture, always trying to deform ourselves to fit the form which is supposed to be there. Always trying to conclude, to close down, to you have an immense sexual experience, and then after that, it's like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. Let's put it in a form very, very, very quickly. Cool. Yes. Then let's go tell all our friends about it. Again, it's like newspapering it. Or any experience. Often when we have a strong experience in meditation, and you probably recognize this, if we tell about it too soon, it stops something. And then the other one says, yeah, I know that. And you want to kill them. Oh, yes, this is that, and that. What?
When we talk too much about a thing, we feel it.
Exactly. And that can be an internal system as well. It can happen very, very quickly. No, you're driving to the Albert Heijn and you have a moment of awakening consciousness. And already you start to teach it. I've described myself. So the beginning of a realization experience starts to come forward, and already I'm in a group in Holland telling about this and a blog post, and it's killed it. It hasn't even begun. It was just the beginning of an experience. And the mind has already picked it up and started dictating what this is.
But it says also something about your kids. Yeah, the gift and the teaching.
And the
So
passion.
there's a passion
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
kind of feels selfish.
It says something about where the gifts are getting stuck,
Yeah, maybe. But
where there's an over-reliance on the affirmation from the outside in, where there's not enough space. What says something about the gift is that I noticed it. That there's an awareness of like, well, that's fucked up, you know, and then the ability to actually say, fuck the teaching, let's go back again to the experience. That's more where we begin to find our power in the space behind.
Nearly abuse of experience.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
process.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Personally both. At the same time.
Yeah. So exactly, because we're talking about wholeness and how to find nirvana here, actually.
It's also something like intimacy that you bring.
Yeah.
Intimacy from inside. It wants
Exactly.
to be born and
Yeah.
now we're all making fun.
Yes, exactly. Because also there's an intimacy in communicating and meeting each other to be able to transmit an experience to somebody else. It's just that we get compelled a little bit and we lose our freedom somewhere because of a panic reflex between mind and body. There are times when we really need to communicate, and just the speaking begins to unfold an experience. It's like when we tell a dream, we then begin to remember the rest of the dream as well, and the dream after that, if we speak about it. So there's no right or wrong. But what there is this realization of the power which is there within us in a very material, real way. We can talk about godly power above the waist, and it's still abstract. It's not yet getting our blood boiling and our nerve system alive, and it's not changing our universe. It's not rocking the basic sense of who we are, what we are, where we stand. But when it comes to the sexual power, we're nervous. We're nervous as if we are not that, as if it's not part of us, as if it's not okay. Now, I'm not talking about the gynecologist or the doctors, I'm talking about us. And what we know of sexual power with our minds is not it. It's the tip of the iceberg. What we're conscious of. It's like we think we're totally able to contain our anger, but the anger that we're able to contain is the conscious bit. The possibility of rage that moves through us. The rage of the whole universe, the energy of the whole Big Bang. Ferocious destruction and rage is available to us. And we get a little bit of it in a kind of bad mood. And we say, I can contain it. So what are we doing when we say I can contain it? We're actually saying, I can allow myself to not be a self. I can allow this wholeness without needing to be conscious of everything, because the conscious mind then takes a back street like a mirror, just reflecting what comes forward in real time. And this is difficult because you see how judgment is now connected with our consciousness, our ability to be conscious. Like it's a bad thing, all this power. The power of the Big Bang, the power of the whole of creation, the power of the whole universe, the raging volcano which is accessible, as if we don't trust it. It's really looking at the universe upside down now, like from the fiery depths of it. Infinite power source moving upwards. And we can build ourselves a sense of self, a form where we're basically not that powerful and not got that much going for us. But we have no idea. You know, there is the famous Kundalini story of a woman who's absolutely there with her nails and her high heels, and then she sees a baby, and the car is rolling backwards towards the baby, about to squash the baby. Suddenly she has all the power in the universe. She's there in a second. She's lifting the car. She's able to lift the car. Pure vitality, pure power moving through her, with the intelligence to preserve life. Its own intelligence. Not like she's thinking, oh yeah, but what about my fingernails? And when we go through a war situation, often this incredible power, they call it courage, but there is a power which is from beyond physical survival or personal advantage, moving through. And the best thing we can do in such a situation is move with it. It's our greatest safety, the power of the whole, because it is not evil. Without it, we would all be empty plastic bags. You know, it's us. And sometimes it really shows up as a corrective force, like a volcano going off to release the pressure in the earth. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. But we don't want to kind of say, okay, you know, we make the power and the depth of this wild force of sexuality, we make it good because it's been made bad. Because it's not like that. We can study it. We can look at how we really know sexuality in our lives to get a sense of the nature of this force. You know, do we know sexuality? How do we really feel sexuality? Sexual movement. What does the sexual sense feel like? And I don't mean sexuality just in terms of, you know, the narrow thing. I mean the sexual sensuality of human. What does it? Because we can only know by experience anything at all. The way back is through experience. It's not through putting knowledge on top of knowledge and saying, yeah, it's good sexuality, it's sacred sexuality, blah. We need to test it. How do we know it? And when we look into it, we see what the kind of qualities involved with sexuality are love, eros. It's like a physical manifestation of love in movement. Care, protection, nurture, tenderness. You can really begin to find the qualities of true nature there. Bliss, which is an immensely healing factor when it's allowed to be there. Now, bliss is one of those qualities, like love, which gets thrown down the sexual condemnation tunnel. You know, because if sexuality is evil, bliss is a bit evil too, isn't it?
Ja, maar niet helemaal extase meer.
But ecstasy is another one.
Yes, exactly, but we have only one word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bliss is, you know, to say it very, very simply, is like if you touch very, very softly, like with a baby, you know, you just make skin connection, very, very, very gentle sense of touch. There can be a bliss arriving, and you can feel the falling away of conditions. You know, beard is a bliss. And in the movement of accessing bliss, it's like an allowance, an allowance, and an allowance. You can't grab it. It's a tingling sensation, which is there because of its refinement, because there's space, because you let it fly. The moment we try and grab it, it moves into form, and then it becomes a dead thing. So there's something very, very alive about bliss. Very, very pleasurable. And again, I use the word pleasure, and it's like, you know, like falls almost into that place of, you know, hedonistic pleasure seekers, sexuality wrong. But we're hardwired for pleasure. The whole of creation is hardwired for pleasure. So why is it got this intelligence of pleasure within it, this intelligence of bliss within it? Everything we do is driven by this principle, the pleasure principle. Because it's pleasurable to feel love, it's blissful to feel love, it's blissful to feel the oneness, it's blissful to feel alive. To get to that experience which we cannot keep, which means we're trying to get to an alignment where we're able to live. And of course what we do with bliss is we associate it with sexuality, and then we associate it with conditions, and then it's only when, only this, only later, only back then when I was young. Only with these body parts, or with a body. But it's an energy which has an immense healing power. And it's an energy which is connected with the meeting position of this with that, of one dimension with the next, of consciousness with conscious. Of one finger with another finger. There's a meeting position, and there's a little explosion of bliss, if we allow it. We could also ignore it. That's called ignorance. And just remember, okay, there might be a nice feeling there now, but my knee really hurts. There's pain here. First, before I can experience this, I have to have no pain anywhere. And heal all my traumas.
It's about evolution.
Yeah.
All about transformation, evolution.
Exactly.
There's a big thing in it.
Yes. So there's awakening of consciousness. Pure, whole consciousness involving the physical. But not only the physical, because what's moving through the finger to the finger? Right? You could say it's consciousness. You know, it's not that this finger could touch this finger and it could exclude the brain, or that it could exclude the feet, or that it could exclude the heart. Because I'm feeling really, really depressed, there's not so much of an experience available here. But if I open the heart, it builds up. It's the Zen movement, you know. When you meditate like this, at first it can be incredibly annoying. If you really keep your consciousness here, because all the conditions start to rattle. And the aliveness which is there, the conditions around bliss and the aliveness behind it, it's like a bomb wanting to explode. But after a while it can come to this place of such a stillness, holding stillness in the physical. And stillness is not free, stillness is the allowance of the movement of bliss. The allowance of the aliveness of the male and the female, the active and the receptive, all the happening, all the movement. It's like a very powerful quality. Where male and female can be one and male and female can be separate and still one. Where things can move fast and things can move slower, things can have a rhythm. All within the experience. This is what stillness is allowing. It's like the stillness in the air in the room right now. No stillness, no nothing. We could not be. And this is beyond the polarity of sexuality, allowing that meeting position, and that meeting position is an explosion of subtle energy within the stillness, and each little particle of the explosion has got stillness within it. And I'm not talking about anything other than what it feels like to be alive, when we really begin to lift the restrictions, the conditions on our life, our grudges against life, our war against sexuality, our habit, our difficulty waking up in sexuality because it feels painful to go. At first it feels like a suffering to allow it, or it feels dangerous, or it feels unsafe. So one of the fastest routes to enlightenment is through the inner fire of bliss, as taught for thousands of years by the Tibetans. It's got a heat. It's very much in the pelvic area. This inner fire of bliss. And now we're talking about a spiritual fire of bliss. We're accessing the bliss, which is the one that moves through the fingers, through the physical, but is there irrespective of the physical. It could also be here, a cloud of bliss. And of course, we know when there is an orgasm, it's not really kept inside the body, the experience, is it? It's much more like a great big firework fountain happening, So this idea that everything's like densely kept within the skin surface of the body is another form being put on the sexual energy. Because we're afraid, because we feel unsafe, because we need to control, to divide. So when each moment of experience of any kind, experience of sadness, experience of happiness, experience of using the senses, the sense of sight or the sense of sound, any kind of experience is involving a meeting position. It involves this touch, the touch of consciousness. And there's always two. So the blissful consciousness within me touches the blissful consciousness within my finger. But it's here waiting. It's alive here too. And the two touch and there is this. And that's creation, isn't it? And it's the same if, like, the unformed blissful consciousness of me or non-blissful consciousness, neutral consciousness of me touches an area of sadness in me. The sadness is also conscious. And there's something about the law of attraction and the sexual pull and the law of eros and love which is there, which is that we are pulled towards where there is a constriction, where something is slightly off. We are pulled there, pulled towards the contraction. It attracts our consciousness. It's like we fall in love with the sadness in a way, with the consciousness within the sadness. It's like the sadness is our child which is calling us. We hear its voice and we recognize that voice. We cannot not go there without making a whole load of interferences with our energy. In naturalness, we go to where we feel sad. And then there is again a kind of blissful happening where the consciousness touches the sadness, something is activated, something starts to happen, something comes to life. In the meeting position. And of course, there is this movement towards, and then there is this meeting position of oneness. The consciousness meets the consciousness. There's an activation, and then there is the opposite. There is a kind of showering, like a little orgasm of sadness. But it's all transforming, isn't it? It's all transmuting. Something is coming to life. Something is becoming visible. Something is allowed to be, and something is showing its intelligence as part of the intelligence of the whole. And that's healing. It's healing if it's in the physical, if it's the warm touch of a mother's hand on the place where the child has a hurt knee, which immediately has a healing effect. Yes, exactly. Or whether it's an emotional thing. Or whether it's a spiritual conflict. That's why just becoming aware of a spiritual conflict is enough. There's a loving presence around it. It might not feel that loving, the awareness, but the awareness by itself is forming a meeting position where it's allowed to begin to resolve itself. So There is subtlety, subtlety, subtlety to this, what we thought we were talking about, sexual energy. And so often the conditions we put on this subtle healing power, that movement of Jesus with his hand that he touches a leper and the skin clears up through the physical, through this transmission of conscious bliss, and then allows it to have a life of its own. The conditions we put on this are so often conditioned by the blocks we have around our sexuality because of fucking. Because of fucking. Those conditions, these sexual hang-ups, these divisions from our mother's body, from our ancestry, from our own body, from our physical experience of anything at all. These divisions and conditions tend to reflect back to conditions and restrictions on our spiritual freedom, on our consciousness, on our permission to be alive at all. I'm saying the same thing as Bart said on the second day, only in a slightly different way. That sexuality is like the sanctity of life, but not the sanctity out there, yes, God, holy, holy statue of Mother Mary. No, the actual miracle of being alive. So this is the kind of sacredness of sexuality. Sacred actually means sacral. Sacral is the pelvic area. Okay, we stopped. That was the signal. the transmission.
That's a lot to consume, so really.
So just to conclude, there is this sanctity and the how do you say, the sacredness of sexuality, the purity of sexuality, and the tendency towards well-being. It's blissful, it's ecstatic, it's to do with pleasure. These are healing factors.